The following program is brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization.
And now, this is the moment fans around the world have been waiting for. It's time!
Good morning. Welcome to 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment. I am your host, Scuba, and on the other side of the glass for me is my cohort, producer slash, well, whatever he wants to be today, the coach, Mr. Zachary Cooper.
I'm in the house,
All
looking
just
beautiful.
Looking all snazzy and stuff.
Thank you.
That's twice this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping to be able to announce this morning that we were the award-winning 2 Cents Sports News or Sports and Entertainment. However, things did not go our way on Friday. We lost out to a recorded show. I will concede that my congratulations to that show, though, however. And the fact that we were even nominated is pretty cool since we've only really been in here a couple months anyway. So we have plenty of time. We have a full year to make up for that and make sure that we win.
Well, and although, everyone kind of was saying that we got a little hosed.
Well, I was unable to attend the awards because I was covering the storm on Friday night, and you were there.
Yes, I was.
And I believe we have some photographs of you at the event, and I would like, why don't you...
You want me to put one up there? Look at this. Look at that.
Check this snazzy guy out. Who is this guy?
I look really good.
All about town.
Look at that one. This is with the double special show.
Look at this guy.
And that's with Katika.
Nice.
I look so good.
I'm afraid she does.
Well, she did. She did. That was me being interviewed, by the way, by Nicholas Wolf.
Very cool, very cool. So, unfortunately, it didn't go our way. But Zach, well, before we get into all of that, why don't you give out all of the phone numbers, the social stuff, and then tell us a little bit about the event.
Absolutely, guys. You want to get a hold of us, go ahead and call the show, 813-639-8255. Everything that we discussed today is definitely a discussable topic, and if we don't talk about it, bring it up. Like us on the Facebook page, 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment Show. Check us out on Twitter at 2 Cent Zach. Scuba not really doing the Twitter yet. He's going to get with it at one point in time in life. Check us out on the website, www.talkwadstudios.com or www.2centshow.webs.com. Thank you to our sponsor who's behind you guys, Michael G. Butash, attorney at law of Butash and Donovan.
Very good, very good. And we do have an in-studio guest as well with us today. I'll have him introduce himself.
Scuba and Zach, this is Jim Sweeney from Clearwater. Happy to be here today. First time on the show. Look forward to an animated discussion this morning.
No pun intended.
No pun intended, because I'm the creator of a cartoon character. His name is Mike. Real name is Michael Anthony Raffone, a.k.a. Mike Raffone, or simply Mike. We refer to him as the ultimate talking head on sports. I'm a 56-year-old man, and Mike was born in my DNA 56 years ago as an alter ego character. He's lived rent-free in my head for my entire time on this planet. And a few years ago, my wife encouraged me, hey, bring Mike to life. And for the last few years, this has been my full-time gig, bringing our cartoon character by the name of Mike to life through ebooks, through blogs, through audio monologues, and through animation.
Now, do you have a website or anything like that where people can kind of check you out?
Sure. Our website is themike.com. That's THEE Mike, MIKE.com, themike.com.
All right, great. Zach, do you have a photograph, picture of his character?
Well, I have the one that's up right now with him sitting next to his character. Let me get one of just his character. I can do that.
So tell us a little bit more about it, Jim. What's your goal and what are you looking to do?
My goal is very audacious. I expect Mike one day to be the first ever animated brand in sports that transcends all sports. I make a bold claim like that, and people say, but what about? And then they kind of don't have an answer about what about. People can, reference older cartoon characters in sports like Peter Puck, but that was specifically for hockey. And that's a character that's 25, 30 years old and never really had any longevity after NBC Sports and Fox had brought it out, over 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
On Fox, currently right now, there's Digger. And Digger is a NASCAR cartoon, character that shows up, underneath NASCAR.
Yep.
And there's also Cletus, which is the blue robot. It's a Transformer robot that you see on Fox Football and sometimes on Fox Baseball.
Right.
But I could personally say I've had multiple conversations with the executives at Fox Sports in Los Angeles, and they admitted that one of the things they, regret not having done originally with Cletus is having Cletus speak. And Cletus is widely known as a football character first and foremost, and not necessarily as a character that could knowledgeably commentate on a multitude of sports. What we're endeavoring to do with our character is make certain that he's not sport specific. I have spoken with a number of the professional sports leagues, one of whom really had a strong interest in our character. But the executive at the league said, if you align with us, your character, Mike, will forever be known as a baseball character, because it was Major League Baseball. It was actually BAM, Baseball Advanced Media. So we've purposely avoided the leagues. We've gone to national sports entities like the big media networks, because they transcend all sports. They report on NASCAR, football, baseball, hockey, soccer, basketball, billiards, poker, and Mike's got his own shtick. He's he's the most resourceful guy out there because he's animated. Whatever comes out of his mouth, you could script.
Right. Well, so you say you lived in your head, and I kind of understand what you're saying. Where do you think it came from? I mean, did you have a love of sports as a kid, or?
I've always had a love of sports,
okay.
And I still play sports. I play basketball several times a week.
Wow.
Slowly, I might add, but I still play.
Sure.
Always have loved sports. Played in high school, played in college, played overseas. After college. Ironically, coincidentally, I just returned last week from playing basketball in Europe.
Wow.
I play on the senior circuit. As I said, I'm 56 years old. I play on a men's team that's 50 and older.
All right.
And we played in a tournament in Zadar, Croatia. There were 650 players from 18 different countries that played there.
Wow.
So, yes, I still love sports. And, to answer your question, what's the genesis of the character? I think, as I matured, got older, I had a lot of creative bent inside me that just wanted to express himself. I also had a lot of angst, where I was always a quiet guy, would sit, in the corner of the room and not necessarily comment on something. I never had envisioned myself as a television personality or a radio personality, but I kind of connected the dots very quickly, because I think I have a pretty good sense of humor, that I could vocalize my opinions in a fair and unbalanced, judicious way through the voice of an animated cartoon character.
I relate to that, because that's really a lot of why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, is that it's another outlet, another avenue for me to go. I enjoy sports. Obviously, it's a huge part of my life, and it's a new outlet for me, and I can talk and bring my opinions out to the forefront, and try to find people out there that I can share them with, that may or may not like what I have to say. And that's fine. but it's something like you said, I've always had something inside me too. Ooh, pardon my microphone. That I've always wanted to do something like that as well. So I can totally understand where you're coming from with that. So, I mean, what's next for you? What's in the works with regards to the next step?
Our character,
within the limits of what you can share.
Sure.
Of course.
Our character and I, we get up every morning. Mike puts his bow tie on, and we report to work.
All right.
Bringing Mike to a national stage, which I think is his rightful national stage, it's my full-time gig. What's next for Mike is to keep on doing what I've been doing for the past year. Mm-hmm. I could, honestly say the last 131 days in a row, I've written a voice through or a blog through the voice of the Mike character. It's on my website, themike, THEE Mike.com. All of our blogs, they have our own individual unique artwork. They're all comics. Mike's a cartoon character, so we always like to write through the voice of Mike in a comedic way, or such a way where we don't, disparage people. We just don't knock them down and hope that they stay down. We want to have some type of redeeming quality to the blog, that we publish, or something that's of comedic value. Okay. So in answer to your question, I want to continue blogging. I'll blog every day for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. And the blogs, obviously, because bringing Mike to fruition is my business, in each and every one of the blogs, I always point to our website. If the blog is featured on, another sports website somewhere, and I always point to the books that I've written. And I've written, along with my wife of 33 years, and I, we're the co-creators of the character. We have an understanding and an agreement that anytime before I press publish, mm-hmm. she's going to edit it. And she's going to make absolutely certain if we put something out there in the electronic atmosphere on the web,
it's hard to pull stuff back,
that we're not ever going to have to, pull it back because we said something that was distasteful or wrong.
Sure.
Because in the making of Mike, if you see a picture of Mike, which Zach was kind enough to post on the website, is that he's got a base. And the base really is metaphorically a moral base also, mm-hmm. where we've never said anything that's sexually derogatory, racially offensive, and we have never intentionally said something that would offend someone. Now, we're pretty cheeky at times and strong with our opinions, but we always extend the benefit of the doubt to the individual that we're writing about or featuring.
Sure. Now, are you also the illustrator, or?
I'm not the illustrator.
Okay.
We have three different creative people that work with us. We actually have a team. We have the gentleman that helped us bring Mike to life through animation. His name is Kevin Riley. Kevin Riley is the owner of Kevin Riley Animation Studios in Tampa. And Kevin's got multiple Emmy Awards. I think he's got close to 30 Addy Awards for advertising and illustrative excellence. If you've ever been, since we're in the Tampa Bay area, if you ever go to Raymond James Stadium and you see the Battle of the Pirate Ships up on the Ray J Jumbotron, Kevin is the gentleman that animated that.
Oh, well, there you go. I didn't. Now I know. Cool.
So Kevin is our animator. We have an illustrator. An illustrator is a young man that we found through a mutual acquaintance that lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And he has brought to life for us, I want to say 350 individual cartoons that are all based on my ideas or my wife's ideas, and he brings them to life. And we have repurposed the same cartoons, not just in our blogs, but also in our ebooks. And we have written, as of last week, 30 sports comic books. They're all ebooks. We sell them on Amazon. You can find them amazon.com/author/microphone.
Okay.
And you can download them on an iPad, a phone, a PC, Android device.
Okay, cool.
And another part of our creative team, two guys, they've been buddies of mine for over 20 years. Their names are Greg Stauffer and Dave Rittenhouse. They live in the Tampa area, and they have a love and a passion for music. So we've done a number of audio monologues, which are very funny, clever, cheeky, that have been broadcast on radio stations. And they do the beats, the sounds, help me with the voiceovers, help to master everything that we've done.
Sure.
And they're also the people that have done in our 1-minute animated clips and a pilot that we did for a major network. They're the guys that did the sound, and they did my recording, which we also translated into the animation.
Oh, that's something else. That's and it sounds like a really neat process. It's got to be pretty exciting for you as well.
Exciting and expensive for the animation.
Yeah, well, hey, if everything works out, it might not. In the end, it might pay off.
Hey, I actually have a picture of Mike on the screen right now, so everyone can now take a look at it.
Now, where can we find this on Amazon again?
Amazon.com /author/Mike Raphone. And immediately it'll pull up our author page. It'll say Microphone by Jim Sweeney. That's my name. I'm the creator. And on our author page, there'll be all of the books that we've published through the voice of Microphone. And on that author page, it's kind of like another personal website I have for the character that shows our Twitter feed, our blog feed. There's multiple videos on there, and there's audio monologues.
Cool. Well, definitely, everybody's going to definitely have to check that out. It sounds pretty exciting, and
eventually you'll see Mike.
And I'm sure it sounds like you got a lot of things in the work, and patience pays off. So I expect that we'll see that hopefully very soon. You mind sticking around for a few minutes?
I'd love to.
All right. Well, we'll stick around. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and pick up and start talking, finish up what we started off with, and we'll do some storm talk. Talk really quickly about the events that transpired on Friday at the awards show. We've got Mets second baseman controversy, got a new coach at USF, and some other sports things going on this week. So stay tuned with us. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to Sense Sports and Entertainment. I am Scuba. On the other side of the glass is the coach, Zach, and sitting with me here is our friend of the studio, or the show, Jim Sweeney, creator of animated character Mike Raffone, which we just talked about a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit more about it before he heads out today, but I want to start touching on some of the things that happened this week, and obviously, as you can see, I am sporting my UConn gear today because they upset the beloved Florida Gators. Silly football school thinking that they can play basketball. Didn't work out so well for them. And so I'm, outside of being a little bit shocked, because honestly, if you've been listening to the show, I've been truly honest about this UConn team, that I was not sure. I did not think that they could get this far. I didn't think they could get as far as they did last week. So they keep surprising me, much like they did in 2011. And I'm still a little bit in shock, but I'm extremely excited and looking forward to Monday. And tonight at 8:30, the women get a chance to do the same and get to the championship game and play on Tuesday night.
Yeah, but is there really a question of them losing?
There's always a question. Anything can happen. You remember, Baylor and Brian Grimes last year. Oh, I'm sorry, Brittany were supposed to be unbeatable last year, and they got upset. So
that's true.
Anything can happen. But with the way that women's team's been playing all year, they have not been challenged. They really just honestly are just steamrolling everybody. They really should have just skipped the entire tournament process for the women and just put Notre Dame and UConn in the championship game, because that's what it's going to be. The two undefeated teams. Gino Ariema and Muffet McGraw going at it again, but so that'll be Tuesday night. But Monday night's the big game. We've got the UConn men's team will be facing Kentucky. Now, Jim, you used to be a basketball player. I assume that you watched these two games?
Yes, I did. Very intently.
Very intently. Let's start off with the second game, and that being the Wisconsin Kentucky game. We were talking a little bit off air before the show started about that game. It didn't look like it was going to be a good game for a little while there, but then all of a sudden, Wisconsin just battled back, and then they retook the lead, and the game was really pretty much close the entire way. The ending was just kind of, I don't even know what to think. My opinion, I'm really surprised that Kentucky pulled it out. I thought Wisconsin finally had seized control of the game. They were shooting the ball well, and then sure enough, they were hitting all their free throws all night. Kid gets fouled on a three-pointer, 3 foul shots. And I don't know about you, but when I saw him miss that first one, and I just was like, that's going to be what costs them the game. He, sinks the next 2. Kentucky comes down, hits a three-pointer to take a 1-point lead, and that was it. Wisconsin didn't.
It's amazing. Wisconsin was 19 for 20 from the free throw line, and the one free throw that they missed, people like yourself, Scuba, can say, yeah, it cost them the game. But I don't know if just one play can really cost you the game, because as I watch that and I look back on it, I think Wisconsin had a couple opportunities to pull away.
Right.
Early in the game, late in the first half, and then at the beginning of the second half. But Kentucky showed some incredible resilience.
Sure.
And, they withstood every big knockout punch that came their way from Wisconsin.
Yeah, and when I say cost them the game, obviously you're absolutely correct. There's any number of plays you can point to throughout any given game where, if this had happened or this shot had gone in or what have you, there's a difference maker there. I guess what I mean by that is it's kind of like you said, you 19 of 20 from the line, but that one shot they missed was the one shot that, at least if nothing else, would have prevented them from losing the game.
Yes.
Would have at least been a tie when Kentucky hit that three-pointer, as opposed to now you're down by 1 with 5 seconds. You got to try to get a shot off. So, you're absolutely correct about that. So, it's just the kind of like the irony involved there, and that's just devastating. And what I guess I don't know what I would do if I was these kids, but then they have to go. They get shuffled out at a table to field questions. I mean, these kids don't want to field questions after losing a game like that.
They're teenagers and they're highly emotive at that time. It's an emotional sport. Football, basketball, baseball, after you play on a national stage, in this case in front of 75,000 fans and tens of millions watching at home. Yeah. I mean, how can you expect them to have the poise and the maturity to be able to field questions after they just endured a devastating loss?
I agree. I mean, as a head coach, the head coach should take that. And the ones that answered the question, handled themselves, wonderfully, considering exactly what you pointed out. I would just be like, I'm not going out there, and it seems to me that would have been the appropriate thing to do in this situation. Is have the head coach out there, let him field the questions. These kids, they're down enough as it is, and unlike at Kentucky where these kids aren't really even there to go to school. Some of these kids are there. They've been playing for the program for 3 and 4 years, so they've got a lot more invested than I would say anybody goes to play Kentucky. So they're going to be even more emotionally so. I mean, you played ball yourself, so I didn't, so I can only speak how I know I would feel. I know how I feel passionately as a fan, so I can only imagine as a player yourself how, you're heavily invested not only in the school itself,
Absolutely.
but your time that you've put in. To have to sit out there and have to field not only just questions, but generally, most media, they're just stupid questions. I mean, they really are. How do you feel? Well, how do you think I feel? But it was a great game, and I think overall, to me at least, I think this has been one of the best tournaments in quite some time. I mean, you look at the first round, you had a record-setting amount of overtime games. You had the upset of, the upset of Duke to a 14 seed. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the upsets so much. It's just that the games that they played were so exciting.
Yeah, now you have two teams, both of which weren't in the NCAA tournament this year, are competing for the NCAA national championship.
That's right.
One's a 7 seed, I think, and the other one's an 8 seed.
That's right. UConn was the first 7 seed to make the finals, and Wisconsin is the third 8 seed to actually make the finals. And, the only time that happened was when Villanova was an 8 seed and upset Georgetown in '85. And then the other team was Butler, of course, who UConn beat for the championship back in 2011. So there all sorts of statistical analysis and stuff were broken by this tournament, and this wasn't supposed to happen.
That's why they call it March Madness.
That's right. Well, and going into the tournament, I can go back to some of the other shows because I said it on the air. I said, this is going to be a crazy and unpredictable tournament. And quite honestly, generally near the end, you got some teams that really, honestly, it wasn't much of a surprise, but it was still kind of shocking. And some of the teams that were still in it late, even going into Elite Eight and so forth, you probably didn't expect some of them teams to be there. And it's been very unpredictable. I think that out of the millions of brackets that were filled out on ESPN or something, I saw actually only 1,780 picked this final.
Wow.
1,780 sounds like a lot, but when you consider the millions of people
Sure.
and the ones millions completed, that's really a small percentage. So the fact that anybody picked it, I guess, is kind of shocking in my boat. But I just found this to be an absolutely great tournament. There weren't a whole lot of blowouts, with the exception of a lot of the 1 and 16 seed games and so forth. I don't know if that's the state of college basketball now, that there's just more
Parity.
Yeah, I just don't think that you're so top heavy anymore. All year I was saying that, is Florida really the number one team, or when Arizona was the number one team? I just still don't see anybody being a clear cut. They're absolutely the best team in college basketball. Even with Florida coming in with only 2 losses, heading into the Final Four, two of the other teams in the Final Four, Connecticut and Wisconsin, were the only teams to beat Florida.
Well, the way that yesterday's game started between Florida and UConn, it was pretty evident that Florida had won 30 games in a row, and they were the clear-cut favorite.
Absolutely.
And they had a chance to put UConn away early.
They sure did.
But, man, UConn came back, and their guards were phenomenal.
Yeah.
They were just so disruptive. and they're the ones that brought them back. And the long guy, DeAndre Daniels for UConn, he shot him back in and made some really good plays, and it was just a fantastic game all around.
No question. I mean,
well, what made me happy is how, everyone was talking trash about how UConn was going to lose because the Florida Gators were injured the last time that they played them.
Right.
Yeah, wrong.
Yes.
Wrong.
No, I was told that too. Oh, that game in December was lucky. They hit that last second shot. Florida was missing a couple guys and this and that. Da 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 da. Well, they played out with the exception of those first few minutes when they were down 16-4. Like you said, Jim, UConn clearly outplayed them the rest of the game. They were like the stellar guard play in their defense. I mean, they played clamp down defense. That's old style UConn basketball under Calhoun and of course Coach Kevin Ollie. He was a defensive specialist under Calhoun.
Sure.
And 13 years in the NBA, and that's what he's teaching and preaching these guys. And and as I've said too, if you have experienced guards, senior guards especially, you're going to go far in a tournament. And that's exactly what UConn has. I mean, Shabazz Napier, I don't think I have to say much more about him, and then as a senior, and then you got Ryan Boatwright. Of course, Shabazz was on the 2011 team, so he's got the experience. He was there to watch Kemba Walker, do what his thing that year. And then you got Ryan Boatwright's a junior. He's still got experience as well. So, and they showed it. But I'm glad you mentioned it, DeAndre Daniels. He's going to be the next UConn star. And one of the other things I said about him was that what he had a tendency to do during the season was he would disappear. And what I mean by that is that he would just seem to be non-involved in any, in the games whatsoever. And those were the games where UConn tended to struggle and mostly lost. I witnessed it firsthand when they came here to USF, played USF. They struggled against USF for quite a while, and they shot, less than 30% for most of that game, and DeAndre was nowhere to be found.
He stepped up yesterday.
Well, he stepped up this entire tournament, and that's what I had said. I honestly had this team losing in the 16. Actually to North Carolina, but they ended up playing Iowa State, so I certainly didn't know what I was talking about, but that was because that was my fear factor. You got a freshman like DeAndre Daniels, talented kid, but I was afraid that he picked that wrong moment where he would disappear, and he hasn't. He's shown up each and every game, a double-double to get into the Final Four, and the top scorer, and yesterday, and he was key. And that, I think, like you said, that the defense was the difference. I mean, Florida plays good defense. UConn just plays it better. And they stayed poised, and that has a lot to do with Coach Ollie. He talks about how poised these kids are, and I think that's where the experience comes into play. So I guess if I had to predict Monday who's going to win, them or Kentucky, I got to go with UConn on this one. I don't know what your opinion is on the game, or if you've had time to think about it, but I got to go with the senior leadership or the experienced leadership quality, as opposed to a bunch of one and doners who are really just looking for the next payday in the NBA. Granted, Kentucky seems to have turned on a switch, but you got Kentucky that 3 times lost to Florida. UConn beat Florida twice. I don't know what's going to give. I mean, what do you think?
My heart tells me UConn. I've lived in Florida for 33 years, but I was born and bred in the Northeast, so I'm a Northeast sports fan. And when I played basketball, and I still do, slowly, I might add, I'm a guard, and I love great guard play. I totally concur that if you have excellent guards that are poised, that are leaders, that have experience, they're going to take you a long way in the tournament. I would love for UConn to win. However, Kentucky's freshmen are incredibly impressive.
They are.
They're no longer freshmen. I mean, come on, let's face it. They're now, one season, 30-something games is completely behind them, and they've shown their resilience in a number of games where they've come back from, being down, and they showed that they had the poise, the wherewithal to finish games and win them. So my heart says UConn, but my gut is telling me Kentucky, and I'm not a Kentucky fan. Never have been.
Oh, I'm not claiming that you are. That's why I wanted to hear your opinion. The thing about Kentucky though, it's that whole turning on the switch thing. I mean, can you really just honestly just turn on a switch each and every time you want to? I mean, are they that good? Because honestly, even against Michigan looked like they had them beat hands down. Tennessee, even I think. I mean, these teams seem to have them down, and then boom, they come roar back strong. And then
I think individually, the talent that Kentucky has, they're all that good because they're 5-star recruits.
Yes, I agree with you there.
However, as a team, sometimes they show their immaturity because they're 18, 19-year-old kids. And then when Calipari brings them together, during a timeout or at halftime and explains, things that they could have done differently, more of, better, quicker, faster, stronger, then they go out there and they just get it done.
I hear you. So you got Kentucky. The points that you actually just mentioned are the points of my concern with Kentucky is that I don't think there's any question, 1 through 5 on their starting lineup that they're all NBA prospects, and probably at least 4 of them will be drafted in this coming draft. The maturity factor of it, the individual factor is, to me, would be a concern. Can they harness that for one more game? If anybody can do it, I guess Calipari can. I guess we'll have to see. We'll see. We'll see at 9-10.
I'm glad that you asked for my thought on the game.
Well, you were busy talking and fiddling around back there. I actually turned to ask you your opinion, and you were off in your own little world back
way.
there. So.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, then why don't you give your 2 cents?
I will throw in my 2 cents. Real quickly, I think the UConn Huskies are going to take this one. Sorry, Jim. Not really a UConn fan per se, only a big baseball guy for UConn, but I have been going with UConn the whole tournament. No one, and I mean no one, will stop Mr. Shabazz, and I just really wanted to say that name. So I got UConn winning this one. Let's go with UConn's going to score into the 60s, and Kentucky's going to get in the 50s. Let's just go with that, Scuba.
Well, and that's really what UConn's been doing this whole tournament is that they've been slowing down the pace of the games. They can play upbeat basketball, fast break basketball if they need to, but they know going with some of these teams they've been playing, the Michigan States, the Iowa States, that like to run up and down the court really quick. That's not what they can do. So UConn has 2 aspects of their game. If you want to go up and down the court, they'll do that. But I don't think that that's in their best interest. They play tight defense, they run the clock, and then they pick their moments where they can hit their shots. What we saw yesterday against Florida is that early on they weren't hitting those shots. And so you can play defense all you want, but if you're not making your shots, eventually the other team is making their shots, you're going to fall down 16-4. I think when they started hitting their shots, they had a couple 3-pointers they hit back to back, and I think that kind of got their stroke going. So, but I think we have a caller in here. So
go to our website at www.partydoctorpro.com.
I think that's not really a caller, Zach. Interesting. Sound like a robocall there.
That was a little weird.
I think it was a robocall.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So
my fault.
Yep, it sure was.
Could have been a disgruntled Gator fan.
That could be too.
Scrubs.
And of course, if anybody has a different opinion, you're certainly welcome to call into the show. 813-639-6255 or 8255. Excuse me. I can't really read it from here, and I don't have it written down in front of me. So
memorize it, sir.
Yeah,
I have it memorized.
It's because it's your number. But at any rate, what I was going to kind of bounce off of this was, at first I'm going back to the one and done situation that's prevalent right now at Kentucky. Initially, my thoughts were, and these kids should, going straight from high school to the NBA, Kobe Bryant and such, and LeBron are kind of exceptions to the rule, I think, for the most part. I was kind of all for the NBA kind of putting some rules out saying you had to be a certain age, and because I thought it was killing the college game. But now, as things have started to happen and I see what's been going on at Kentucky, I'm starting to think that it's actually making a mockery out of the college game now. In my opinion, Kevin Durant going to Texas for 1 year, he was ready for the NBA and clearly should have been afforded the opportunity to go if that's what he chose to do. But what I see going on at Kentucky, it's silly. You get a brand new set of kids in each and every year. It's making not a mockery just out of the college basketball, but out of the university itself, because what you are saying is that we're sacrificing our institution as a tool for education for being a basketball factory for kids that just want to go play pro basketball. To me, I think that sends the wrong message. And I'm all for kids leaving school early if they're ready and so forth. But if their sole purpose is to come because they have no other choice, so they have to go to a college basketball, I just don't think that that's right. And look, UConn's guilty of it too. They had Andre Drummond, one and done on last year's team, and he's becoming a star of the Detroit Pistons. So I'm not just trying to pick on Kentucky here, because there are a lot of schools are guilty of it. I mean, what's your opinion on it as a former college player yourself? I mean,
I think the NBA should extend their requirement another year and make it 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Okay.
I know this is an argument that could be endlessly debated,
mm-hmm.
just like the paying of college athletes. But if Kentucky wins tomorrow night,
mm-hmm.
and you have the Harrison twins, the lefty wingman Young, Julius Randle, and a couple of their bigs that are freshmen,
mm-hmm.
I'd like to see them play again a second year, because I'm a fan and I would love to see they come back if they win to repeat. It's denying us as fans the opportunity to enjoy incredible talent like that.
Absolutely, I agree. I think we have a caller here.
You might.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Who is it? What's your name and what can I do for you?
Well, I mean, if you deliver pizzas, that'd be great. My name is Chuck, and I think I'm calling to talk about the NCAA tournament, but I could also be calling to plug the Stupid Ass podcast. I don't know.
Well, you can do both if you'd like. How about that?
That sounds fantastic. How are you guys doing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon?
Well, I'm sitting in a studio, so I really don't know how beautiful it is outside right now. Hopefully I'll find out here in about an hour or so.
I think we need to combine forces to do a remote, like something, just move it just off the other side of the door there so that we can be outside in the sunshine and the breezes.
I'm all for that. Absolutely. I mean, I'm actually we actually have an event coming. Well, not an event, but there's a coming up in May. Adrian McPherson, a former Florida State quarterback and former Tampa Bay Storm quarterback, is holding a youth football camp, and we were thinking about possibly going out there for something.
Now that would be fantastic. Just a nice little remote spot. That's the big time right there.
Yeah, it'd be a good opportunity, a little volunteering, for the kids and so forth and so on. So certainly we can be up for something like that. But what about the tournament?
Oh man, what a slate of games yesterday. I mean, obviously, as a citizen of the state of Florida, it's disappointing to see the Gators go down, for me at least. But you have to be impressed by really the front court of UConn taking it to a bigger squad in Florida. Defensively, they completely altered Florida's offensive approach. They played terrific. They shot, after being down 12 points in the first half, I think I read today they shot something like 63% the rest of the game against one of the foremost defenses in the country in Florida. And then the second game, my goodness, all Kentucky is capable of playing right now is barn burners.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, there's something to be said about that too. I mean, I think that that garners a lot of experience too, being able to play a lot of close games. But at the same token, this same UConn team was doing the same thing earlier in the year too. They were winning a lot of close games, so it's not like they're inexperienced in that avenue themselves. But I also think that you're right. Florida was definitely a much bigger team, but I think that UConn also was much faster, which I think is what allowed them in their front court to get behind those big guys quite a bit, and we saw that, and that was really key in a lot of instances, because you thought when you thought Florida was going to start chipping away to get back, there was some lapses in their defense because they just were too slow to get back.
Plus, I thought Kevin Ollie, UConn's coach, made one great adjustment at the beginning of the game. UConn's done this for all the times I watched them on TV this season, they tried to do a high pick and roll with Shabazz Napier, and he would always be able to turn the corner.
Yes.
Florida was just so good defensively, they never allowed Napier to turn the corner.
True.
So Ollie disbanded that approach and just let Napier and Boatwright break down the Florida defensive guards on their own individually, and I think that's what turned the tide of the game.
Yeah, and I think he made the right substitutions too. I was really impressed with his substitutions because there was a key point in that game where he actually sat Shabazz.
Yeah.
And, your team's leader.
He brought in the freshman guard who had a lot of energy, and he was like almost a duplicate of Boatwright.
Right. And then actually UConn did better. They actually pulled away at that point. So that was just huge. You're getting your top guy, your top ball handler, some good key resting time and to get for the stretch run. And I thought that was a key as well.
Well, he has to be a good coach at this point. I mean, how much time has he spent being coached up and mentored by one of the greatest in the history of NCAA basketball in Jim Boeheim? Yeah. So he's definitely coming from a tremendous coaching tree, and I think he demonstrated that last night in taking down the overall number 1 seed.
Yeah, I absolutely think that any questions about whether or not he deserved the job or not, Jim Calhoun knew what he was talking about when he pushed for him to be hired because the UConn brass did not want him to be the head coach. They were definitely looking at other avenues, and Calhoun,
he lobbied for him.
He did more than lobby. They say he doesn't have much pull there, or he'll say it, but he sure does. What Jim Calhoun says is what's going to happen, and so far it's turning out to be the right thing. And not just the NCAA tutorship that he had, but he played 13 years in the NBA, 11 different teams, but he played for some pretty decent coaches in the NBA as well. So he's been around, and I'm glad it's working out. It's working out a lot faster than I would have ever imagined. And being able to keep these kids together after being ineligible last year, that just said something, for a guy and, for the people wanting to play for this guy.
I think it definitely shapes up to be a fantastic matchup on Monday night. You've got to give the advantage early. You've got to lean towards Kentucky. The sheer amount of talent they have right there right now. Julius Randle looks unstoppable. The Harrison twins are playing like they're ready to go in the draft lottery in a couple of months here. And just depth on that team is absurd. But again, if UConn's going to go out and beat the team that already beat Kentucky 3 times by 10 points, they look like world beaters. So there are storylines galore. It should be a really great night.
Yeah, no question. And, you take away, you can't take it away, but if you really kind of eliminate that 16-4 start of that game, from that point forward, once UConn kind of got back into the game at that point, they really controlled that game from that point forward. Florida, for all intents and purposes, at halftime, after half, they were really not a threat. I mean, they were close, they were within there, but they really never were able to retake the lead. And it was still nerve-wracking to watch. But I really never got the sense, when I had a chance to kind of relax and look back, Florida was really never in that game for the rest of the second half. And in my opinion, I could be a little bit biased, but I just, they really never got much closer than 4. And then when they did, they'd quickly get down by 8 or 10 again. And then, and clearly with a minute and a half, they, I kind of applaud Donovan. He realized the game was over, and he let the clock run down. He let them enjoy that moment instead of spending a half an hour fouling for that last minute and a half. And I got to hand it to him. I mean, and a lot of people are coming out and saying that they quit. That's not quitting. Sometimes you just have to concede when you just aren't going to win a ball game, and I applaud him for that.
I don't think anyone's ever argued the fact that Billy Donovan isn't a class act.
Oh, no question. I mean, he was a UConn killer at Providence. I remember Billy Donovan way back then and so I've always had respect for him. As much as I may not like Florida, I've got a lot of respect for Billy Donovan and quite honestly making a football school into a pretty decent basketball program on top of it. You definitely. I'll be surprised. I'm surprised, honestly, that Donovan hasn't been called up to take over some other more traditional basketball powerhouse teams. But he's doing a fantastic job at Florida. So my hat's off to them for that.
Well, he's made his own powerhouse. He has turned Florida into a basketball school. Ever since they first went to the Final Four, I don't remember, I think it was 2000 with Mike Miller and that whole gang.
Yep.
Florida has been an absolute legitimate basketball school. You know, they've been to the dance more seasons than they haven't been. They've made Final Fours. They've made Elite Eights. This is their fourth straight year getting to the Elite Eight. They finally broke through to get to the Final Four, and that's with very few guys that anyone's anticipating being an NBA lottery pick.
Oh, no question, and you're definitely absolutely correct there, and I'm not denying that for a minute. But let's be honest. People here in Florida just don't give a crap about college basketball. They don't, and it's evident in any venue here in Florida that you go see a college basketball game. They just don't care. Or, you know, even Florida has people show up to their games and so forth. But honestly, if you go out today, I'm wearing my UConn stuff today. I'll go out today. You know, I probably walk up to any person that might have a Florida license tag or wearing Florida gear today. That most of them will probably be oblivious that their team even lost, or could care less as long as it's not their football team. That's just, I've been down here in Florida for 20 years now. But conversely, you go up north and they could care less about college football. So it's a regional thing.
And I can say I would much rather root for the Florida basketball team than I would their football team. My God, you have a better chance of winning with the basketball team than you do with the football team.
Well, at this point, that's very true.
I think I read somewhere this is the first year since the 1960s that the basketball team finished the season with less losses than the football team.
Yeah, and that's funny. That is funny. One other tidbit too, that UConn and Kentucky both have more postseason wins at Dallas Stadium than the Dallas Cowboys. Right. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
I love that.
Go figure.
There was a meme I saw last night. When Aaron Harrison hit that three to win the game, it's like, wow, it's very strange watching somebody actually be clutch at Dallas Stadium.
That's a good one too. Let's keep that in mind as we take some pokes at some Dallas Cowboy fans that might be out there. Well, Chuck, anything else? I've got to wrap this up. I'm up against the top of the hour here.
I just want to extend that invite. Coach has already been a guest of ours in the Stupid Ass podcast a few times. We'd love to have you in studio later on. I think we're going to start recording around 7 tonight.
And actually, it's something funny, Chuck, is Pez actually sent me a quick message. Apparently, I'm going to be live tonight as well.
Well, exactly. That's what I wanted to reiterate. I want to bully you right now into coming on our show.
Well, I'm definitely down for doing that. Tonight's probably not going to work for me, but I definitely will be interested in doing that in the future. I'll talk to Zach a little bit about it, and we'll see if we can't work something out.
Fantastic. You guys have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you again for letting me come on.
I love you so much.
You got it. Thanks, Chuck.
Take care.
All right. Well, before we head out, Jim, I want to thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you coming in. Any last things about your project?
I'm just grateful to be on the show today. Expect to see our character out there more regularly. I mean, you can always find them on Amazon because we have 30 sports comic books, and that's amazon.com/author/microphone. We've been selected as an icon for a new social media site that has obviously a sports-centric fan base. We'll be on LCD screens and training facilities around the country in which our character will ask a series of trivia questions and entertain not only parents but kids. And I fully expect our character to be on jumbotrons and stadiums and arenas within, maybe 18 months, and you'll certainly see him on television. Prior to the launch of today's show, we were talking about Space Goes Coast to Coast.
Right.
And our holy grail with our Mike character is for Mike to host his own sports radio, sports television talk show in the same vein that Space Ghost, an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon character, interviewed 97 A and B-list celebrities for a period of several years.
Right.
I want to do that through the voice of our character, Mike, interviewing famous sports celebrities. Part of my bucket list is for Mike to interview a LeBron James. And all of these guys, they're now global brands in the making. Sure. So every opportunity they would get to be able to get more coverage and be able to humanize themselves on a media outlet, they're gonna jump at the opportunity.
Right.
So in the case of LeBron, I'm not going to ask him about last night's game, like how many assists, how many rebounds, how many points. We're going to ask LeBron, are you a better dunker or dancer?
Yeah, and that that's perfect because it takes away, it kind of can catch them off guard a little bit, but at the same time it's entering a different avenue than
Absolutely.
and you're not going to get the standard answers that you always get, and that's what I try to do too when I'm interviewing guys or talking to guys. I try to ask them different questions that aren't the same old. You're going to get the same, we take one game at a time and that kind of. Don't want standard answers. I like that approach. You ask them the off.
And if LeBron gets up and he dances, Mike will say, "LeBron, stick to basketball, bud."
There you go. Sounds perfect. Well, Jim, listen, again, appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Definitely check out his character, Mike Raffone, and his comic books on Amazon, as he said. And if you want to, one more time, give out your website or...
TheMike.com, TheMike.com, TheMike.com.
All right, perfect. Well, we're at the top of the hour. We're just going to take another quick break. We'll be right back. Got some other things to talk about. If you have anything you want to chime in about, we're still want to talk about the NCAA tournament or any other sports subject you've heard this week, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We'll be happy to take your call. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit Tampa Bay Storm, recap the game Friday night, USF Bulls hiring a new coach. We also have to talk about the new Florida State logo. Oh, boy, not so sure about that. And a couple other things we'll talk about, but we'll be back right after this break.
Michael G. Butash, attorney at law, is a former state prosecutor with substantial experience in handling all criminal and DUI matters. When you are facing charges, you want someone who aggressively defends cases ranging from minor traffic infractions to serious violent first-degree felonies. Call attorney Butash and together you'll discuss your case in person or by phone. He accepts most major credit cards and also offers payment plans. Call attorney Michael G. Butash today for your initial free consultation.
End of the world, and I stare into the abyss. I look back and wipe a tear from my eye and reminisce about the times that I had. How could they have been better? Maybe have my now, write my name and thank you letter. See, I think about my daughter, how she'll never know what dad. I gaze upon my shoes and see the pair my father had. Should I be mad or maybe sad? Nah, I should be glad. If I was in a life, it'd be worse than the one she had. Cheating on my wife, it was my new 9 to 5. I gave the clap so many times, applause fills my mind. I'm a king on the throne, reality I'm a drone. If home is where the heart is, then I truly am alone. You wanna know a man, walk a mile in his shoes. Don't be so quick to pass judgment on the path that he chooses. This is my story and the author is you. So where's my happy ending, cause it's long overdue. I'm tired of this life, constantly burdened by strife. Eternally joining me like husband and wife. I am the alpha and omega, beginning to the end. As death hand approaches, let that second act begin. Trials and tribulations that we face in isolation. Got us praying for a savior, cause the end is what we face. Another good time, it was a good ride while it lasted. Can't afford to end the win is what we are. I hope that I last it.
Have led off to there with a feeling so simple. So why, with feelings like these, do we feel we're simple? Me.
Similar in the physical form, but what I put up ain't your typical storm. You turn your back cause you wanna, I refuse to do the same thing. Rather spend my life in the chain gang. Turn my back on my daughter cause I'm proud with her mama. What kind of weak man is that? No father took Kiana, that's garbage. And up in the sauce, cause me not being there is considered a loss. About to get real hard like brick walls, still ace driveways. Cause no dash it gets stalled till they die away. And when they fly away, look down, see what you raise. So when she look up, it won't be sideways. Cause kids nowadays, boy, they need that guidance. Without that, they bad, they will sneak and lock quick. Cause that's what I did. Gave my mom so much stress. Without a man, I didn't get my high kick. I should've known thrown emotion put on the spot for us to be a man without being raised by a bop. But all debate can stop, dog. I does my slick as the beat, rising sad in the heat. All on the drum line installed in my brain. Thoughts and failures that I get from you, but I would never ever let them come true. I see you in the mirror and can't let them get to me. There's nowhere in here that I would ever let you live with me.
Life have led off to there with a feeling so simple.
All right, welcome back to Sense Sports and Entertainment Show. I am your host, Scuba. Behind the glass, we have the coach, Zach, and now joining us let's not put you on the screen too much. Off to my right and off to the left of your screen, we have a new studio guest, Noah, young man. It's a high school student with my producer here, Zach. Very knowledgeable in sports himself, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So we'll give him a little time on the mic today too. But I wanted to come back. I'd be remiss in not talking locally about the USF Bulls hiring their new coach, Orlando Antigua. Orlando Antigua was the assistant coach over at Kentucky, since we just got done talking a lot about Kentucky. Of course, this is the Bulls' second hiring in the last week or so, and their first coach, as you know, took the job. They found out and discovered after the fact that he really didn't have a degree, ironically also from Kentucky, and they subsequently said, well, you can't be hired here because you do not meet the requirements of the job. So off he went, and now enter University of Kentucky assistant, and he was also the Dominican national team head coach, Orlando Antigua. So first non-African American player for the Harlem Globetrotters. Little tidbit most people aren't aware of. So I don't know. USF just can't seem to get it right at that with that pro basketball program. As I mentioned before the break, they just really don't care about basketball around here. It's been evident. USF finally has a really nice basketball facility, which certainly had to have a lot to do with not having people show up there before or having recruits want to come play there. They have a fantastic facility over there, but that place is just damn near empty for most of their games, and it's pretty sad. But, they're trying. I think Stan Heath was still a pretty good coach. He just, he got them into the tournament last year, and they actually won a couple games. I don't consider the play-in game actually a real tournament win. That's my opinion. But they did win after that, and they did make it into the field of 32. And then they did struggle this past year, and they subsequently decided he was no longer a good enough coach. Look, it's USF. You're not going to have a program that's going to be running successfully from year in and year out. It's just not that kind of school right now. We'll see what this guy can do. He's got a lot of good pedigree. Everybody talks highly of this man. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I just don't know if USF's ever really truly going to be a basketball school of any kind. And any chance they ever had of doing that went out the wayside when they started up football. So, but their football team stinks right now too. So, yeah. I don't know. Go ahead, Noah. If you want to chime in, don't be
USF, shy. Their sports programs aren't the best.
Right.
I feel like a high school football player who played in high school and was okay and did some good stuff in high school but didn't really get acknowledged for it and get a scholarship, I feel like he could go to USF and go try out and be a walk-on at USF.
Ouch.
And be able to play. I'm just saying. I mean,
yeah. I don't disagree. I mean, it's kind of a shame because USF is a large enough school. They play in an NFL stadium. A lot of people will say that that's a detriment to the program. I don't. I think it's an enhancement to the program. There's some talk about them making a facility on campus. With the amount of people that don't show up to their football games also, it's probably not a bad idea. They could always still move over to the Raymond James Stadium for the larger draw games, like when they had Florida State come in a couple years ago, big games a few years ago, West Virginia, when they were top, both highly ranked opponents and so forth. Those are the kind of games that you could move into the stadium.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think USF, I don't know where they would do it, quite honestly, on their campus, but they could definitely put in a nice, probably 35,000 foot seat stadium, and probably they could pack that out every game.
You would hope they could pack it out. Do you really think that there's 35,000 people at the Ray J to go see them?
There are sometimes, but not lately.
I'm with you.
That's for darn sure. And you're going to have the larger draw games where you could always just play at the alternate venue and play over at Ray J. I say 30, 35. That's awful small. I mean, even UConn, whose football, I'm just using them as an example because I'm familiar with the situation. They finally, when they moved their program into Division I early 2000s, to transition from being a basketball school to also being a football school. Not overly successful at football, but they have made a BCS bowl just a few years ago. But they built a nice stadium, in East Hartford. It's not on their campus by any means, but it's a good 45,000 seat stadium. It's a really nice place. They don't pack it in anymore, but they were initially. But again, the program's down a little bit as far as winning. They've got a new head coach and so forth. Mm-hmm. But I think USF would benefit themselves possibly having something on campus. However, my concern is that if anybody's familiar with driving around the USF area, it's extremely traffic busy without anything going on. And when there's something going on up there, it would be an absolute nightmare. So that would be another concern I would have with something like that. So I don't know what it is. I mean, USF, there's nothing wrong with this school. They've got top-notch facilities for everything now. They've put a lot of money into the Sun Dome, a lot of money into their baseball and softball complex. I don't know. I mean, you're a high school student looking to go to college. I mean, is there any appeal to USF for you outside of it just being local and close to home?
Well, my older brother and sister both go to USF, and so it's kind of been a thought in the back of my mind. Like, I could go with them and go to USF and just hold up the Selby tradition, I guess. But
well, let me be clear here too. I'm not knocking USF. Is absolutely a fantastic educational facility. I'm kind of like more on this, so let me make sure I understand. I do understand USF's a fantastic school for education and one of the better schools. So just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I think that it's a really, really good environment. I feel like the USF campus is a town of itself, and that it's, as odd as it sounds, it's like roomy or kind of just, it feels like a city. It feels like you're in your home, no matter if you lived in Florida and you go there or you come from out of state. And I know that happens. People can come from out of state. And so I think that's USF's goal, is to make it feel like their own little town. So
no, I definitely see that. I mean, I came down here when I was in high school back in '88, and I actually came to the Tampa area, which is where I actually fell in love with the Tampa area. You guys weren't even born yet, but I fell in love with it back then in '88. And you wouldn't even recognize Tampa from '88 to what it is today. Yeah. And the USF campus, even then, I really liked, and you wouldn't even recognize that campus today from what it is today. And I really wanted to go there. Back then, I didn't ultimately do so. Again, it's a great educational facility and one of the better schools to go to.
Well, and they also have one of the better baseball complexes, softball complexes.
I mentioned that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I've been tweeting, sorry.
I know. That's why I don't call on you, because you really don't pay attention a lot. So, at any rate, I did mention that. So, but again, our whole sole purpose of going to college isn't just so they all have the good sports teams, and I'm a classic example of that, because the school I ended up was getting too much trouble at UConn, and so I ended up going to a smaller state school also. That sports programs are really not very good, and so I could relate. But it was far enough from home, but it was still close enough at the same time. So there's that appeal. I really don't want USF not to succeed. I would really like to see their sports programs do well. It's nice though when I want to go, when UConn comes to visit or whatever. I know I'm never going to have a hard time getting a ticket to anything. That's kind of nice, but at the same time, it's almost, I feel bad because I've gone to their basketball. I went to both the women's and men's basketball games when UConn came to town, and if it weren't for the USF band and their cheerleaders, there wouldn't have been anybody at these games to cheer for their own team. Yeah. And even at the football games of late, especially, granted they weren't that successful this year. If it weren't for the students getting in for free, I mean, it's so sporadic. I went to a couple games this past year, and it was like you can kind of sit where you want as long as you can get away with it.
Yeah.
It's a shame because the school's too good and it's got too much money to not be more successful. The problem is they are kind of cheap when it comes to paying their coaches, and you're not going to get guys that are going to stick around for too long. Mm-hmm. And so you got to get second tier coaches like a Willie Taggart, for instance. I don't know enough about the guy. I mean, I know he didn't have a very good first year, but he wasn't coming into a good situation either.
Yeah.
So, and a completely different coach from Skip Holtz, who, I'm sorry, the guy was a good coach. He wasn't necessarily successful here, but he also had some things he needed to clean out and just didn't really have enough opportunity. But I think that's the nature of college sports now. They're just so quick to pull the trigger. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with USF, but hopefully they'll get things going around. We'll have see what this guy can do. They all say he's an amazing recruiter. I mean, you always hear that line. He's an amazing recruiter. Okay, well, my question is, can he coach? And that's important. You can recruit all day long, but if you can't coach, then what good is it? So we can all blow smoke up a young man's butt, but can we actually get him to play for us? And that's the question.
Yeah.
So, but getting to play for us. Transition. Speaking, we kind of touched on football. Got to talk about our beloved Tampa Bay Storm, and I know that we don't necessarily have a lot of arena football fans. I'm trying to change that, folks. I'm telling you, this is a good time, and it's a fun event to go to. This past Friday night was Faith and Family Night at the Storm game. They say they had about 11,000 people there. I'm not so sure it was quite that many, but that's how many tickets they had out. They had a special event prior to the game with a bunch of Florida State alumni. Got a meet and greet with legendary coach Bobby Bowden. Got to see him briefly. I didn't get the amount of time I would have liked, which stinks. They did not. They were actually not giving media access to him, which was kind of disappointing. I was kind of hoping that that wouldn't be the case, but it was kind of nice to see Coach Bowden. I had the opportunity to meet him back in '95 at the Florida State team dinner after their win against Florida in the Sugar Bowl. Thank you, Derek Brooks, for that introduction, by the way. He invited me to the team dinner to be with him and got to meet Coach Bowden. So that was a really neat time, and I was really kind of hoping I'd get one last shot because, Bobby's not the youngest guy in the world anymore. But so it was a good night. Storm obviously coming off that disappointing loss last week where they had the game won, but our quarterback happened to fumble. In arena football, you can't just take a knee. You have to show advancement. And on the advancement to run out the clock, he fumbled the ball. The other team, Orlando's, recovered, ended up scoring and winning with 6 seconds left to go.
Randy Hibbard.
I know. It's still bothering me. But they recovered to play Philadelphia on Friday night. Philadelphia was in the Arena Bowl championship last year.
Was Jaws there?
If he was, I did not see him.
No.
But this Philadelphia team clearly will not be in the Arena Bowl this year. They are not good at all. Although I will tell you, they were running their chops like you wouldn't even believe.
And you folks know what me and Steve do when people run their chops.
Oh, well, here's the thing. The Storm jumped out on them 14-0 right off the bat, and they really never looked back after that point. The Philadelphia was really never in that game. But they were just doing everything they could to try to run their mouth. There was probably about 4 or 5 different scraps, close to being some fights. Because they were getting beat and they were trying to draw penalties. And unfortunately, some of these Storm players were getting sucked into it. And that's one thing I wish they would just, you've got a team in your don't get stupid penalties. And that's what they were doing. They were just trying to sucker them into some penalties. But the Philadelphia just was no match for them. They did kind of try to make a game of it in the second quarter. Randy Hibbert, say what we will, we're very critical. Zach and I are of him, but he had 7 more touchdown passes. He had 1 interception, I believe. 3 more touchdowns for Amari Jackson. Speaking of USF, former USF standout Amari Jackson, 3 more touchdowns. And two more to Justin Hilton as well, who had a pretty decent game. But Amari Jackson's been playing great football of late. And we are hoping that next week, as they go on the road to Jacksonville, which is going to be another huge and important game for the division, get back Joe Hills, who, for all intents and purposes has been ready to come back and play, but they just didn't want to take any chances with him. They want to make sure he was 100%, so they're kind of expecting him to be back to play next week. The Storm will have probably, arguably, three of the top receivers in the league, which, if you in arena football, having top-notch receivers is quite huge, and you can overcome the deficiencies at quarterback, which is kind of what the Storm are doing right now. Look, Randy's winning. He is really, putting up the decent numbers, and I guess you can't say too much. I still don't think he's getting rid of the ball fast enough, and there's others around that concur. But I guess as long as they're still winning, got to try to not be so critical. But he's just not it.
Mm-hmm.
He's it for now.
Well, and Steven Garcia last night Friday was a little iffy also, fumbling two snaps in a row.
Yes, Steven Garcia, if y'all remember, he's a local kid here, Jefferson High School, stud, played at South Carolina under Steve Spurrier, looked like he was going to be a pretty top-notch quarterback, and just ran into some issues and some troubles. And he finally was able. They finally threw him in the game. They were up. They had the game in hand. They were up 63 to 35. Game was well in hand. Only a couple minutes to go, and they were going to give Steven some garbage time and hopefully get himself a touchdown or so. And first series, fumbles the snap on his first snap. They fortunately recovered it. 3 incomplete passes after that, and they weren't even close. They were just really off. So Philly gets the ball back. They score. They get Steven back out there again for the next series. Fumbles the snap again, and that was it. His playing time was done. Put Hibbert back in there to rack up the game. But Storm did give up two late scores and made the score 63 to 49 was the final, but it wasn't really that close. It just got a little bit closer than they would have liked. So Storm just still having trouble putting people away, but they played well. They rebounded, especially after that tough loss last week. They rebounded well. They responded well, and I was pretty proud of the guys, and they were fired up and ready to go. And I think we have a phone call.
Caller, welcome to the 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment Show. How you doing? What's your name and what's your purpose?
My name is Wes Selby, and I am calling to wonder about what the free agency looks like for perhaps the Miami Dolphins.
Well,
go ahead, Noah. If you
all right. Well, I am a giant Dolphins fan, so that is a big topic on my mind.
Super.
I do believe that we have made some really, really good off-season acquires of players, and just some really good off-season moves. We re-signed Brent Grimes to a big deal, and that was a really, really good move. He's been such a hoss this last season, and he's just a killer cornerback. He's one of the best in the league. Obviously,
6-6 was nice against the Bengals. That was one of my highlights for Brent Grimes.
Oh yeah.
They're bringing in Nate Burleson for a look.
Nate Burleson is going to visit with us, and he's a good solid wide receiver. He's a little older. I think he's in his 30s, 32, 33. And he's got good stats for his career, and he wouldn't be a Mike Wallace, but he would be somewhere like a Rashard Matthews, or a Brandon Gibson, like a player that could come in and do some solid work throughout his whole season with the Dolphins.
Got Noshawn Moreno signed 1-year deal. In my opinion, Noshawn Moreno's not a number one running back.
No, not at all.
He had his first 1,000-yard season with Denver this past year, but I don't think that was so much to do with Noshawn as it was that Peyton Manning was just lighting everybody up. And when you've got to pull guys back to cover your secondary, of course your running back's going to have a lot of free space. But they only signed him for a 1-year deal. $3 million's not $3 million's not unreasonable.
Yeah. And 1 year is encouraging to me, because if they only sign him for 1 year, that's
and it doesn't work
that's
out.
them hoping that they'll play him a lot in that 1 year. So if they can play him and it doesn't work out, then that's a bummer and he doesn't play for us anymore. But if it does and it works out great, then he is going to be a solid running back for us.
Right. One last question. I know there was a little bit of talk about Mike Wallace going on the trade block. I think it was about like his attitude and poor sportsmanship. Is that still a topic for the Dolphins, or is that a rumor that leaves?
Well, I think Mike Wallace is a little bit of a baby. He
I don't know that how much of it. I don't think it's really a rumor. I think that it's very, very much true. I think they're. Okay. I don't think Mike. Here's the thing with Mike Wallace. He's a speed guy, but the mistake the Dolphins made was bringing him in thinking that he was a number one receiver. He's not a number one guy. He's a complimentary guy, a second maybe, or a good three, and he's a speed deep field threat. The problem with the Dolphins is they didn't. You can cover a deep threat when you don't have anybody else that they have to worry about.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to knock your Dolphins. I mean, I'm not a Dolphin fan, but I'm not trying. I'm just being honest. Is that you can have the speedster that runs down the field all day long, but if you don't have anybody else, you have to account for another solid number one receiver. Then he's kind of useless to you. And in my opinion, he was basically useless for the Dolphins this past year. He was virtually non-existent for much of the season. I think that's why they're trying to get. And then again, you got a quarterback that his deep ball isn't the greatest in the world. So is a deep threat what you want for that quarterback? So a guy like a Nate Burleson is a short field guy. He's not going to get you the deep ball, but he's going to be right down the middle of the field, mid-range field, and that's perfect for what the Dolphins need with what they're limited to at quarterback. And so I honestly think that the Mike Wallace talk is probably very much true. If they can get something for him, pick up another draft pick or something, because the Dolphins are desperate for some draft picks. They've
for
really
linemen, especially.
Yes, we need linemen.
You need some
58.
We don't need to get into all the issues, but everybody's familiar with. They need some offensive help for sure, and so if they have a way to secure some draft picks to try to solidify that's what they're going to do. So I think there's probably a lot of truth, and usually where there's smoke, there is fire. Whether or not anybody's going to bite on that's going to be anybody's guess. I mean, that could be one of those draft day trades, or it might be like all these other guys, like a Deshaun Jackson. He may just end up getting released if everybody thinks that he's just going to become a free agent. So,
yeah, Ryan Tannehill is a growing quarterback. He's not. Yeah. He's in his second. He's coming into his third year. He's not going to be perfect right out of the gate. He obviously last year was just a really bad season for us. He laid down on the ground 58 times, and it was just he acted like he didn't get any sleep the night before, because he never got any time in the pocket. And whenever he would try and roll out, it wouldn't really work out as well as we would like it to. And I feel like Mike Wallace was a good idea, given that he was the really only option that we had besides maybe Brian Hartline to be our number one wide receiver. And so I think that it wasn't a bad decision to put him there. I just feel like they didn't give him the situations, and I feel like Ryan Tannehill wasn't as confident as he should have been with his deep ball. And he doesn't have a great deep ball, but if he works on it and if he would have tried it out more, he could have capitalized on it. And they never used Mike Wallace the way he really should have been used. I know in the Carolina game that we almost won that and almost broke their streak.
That 50-yard touchdown or whatever.
Yeah, they started to give Tannehill the confidence and called some deep plays, and he threw it, and he got it. He hit him on a 50-plus yard touchdown. And he almost did it again to finish the game. Well,
here's a name I'm going to throw out there too for your offensive line. He's a local guy looking for work right now. Played at the University of Miami. Bryant McKinney.
Yes.
Could be a service.
Oh, yeah.
He could be a little duct tape action, a little temporary serviceable guy to kind of bring in there, just fill a void for a year or so. But I think that I look for the Dolphins actually probably to trade up in this draft and try to get a big offensive tackle, right tackle specifically. But you can get a guy like a Bryant McKinney who's sitting out there looking for work. He's a local Miami guy. He'd fill in nicely, I think, for him. I mean, he's up there in years, but again, it wouldn't be a long-term solution. It would just be a patchwork solution for the time being, until you can get the guys in there that you need. And he certainly is not a guy you're going to not want to help you coach up, the younger guys that you're going to bring in. So I would throw that name out there too.
Yeah. Speaking of the whole coaching up, I feel like last year with our draft, we traded for the 3rd overall pick and drafted Deion Jordan out of Oregon. And a lot of people were kind of upset about it that we got a defensive end who is really good in his college years, but didn't really seem to do a lot this past year. And I feel like he was the right decision for us because learning under someone like Cameron Wake is one of the best opportunities you could have ever. So
that answer your question?
That did. I answered it very thoroughly. Thank you guys so much.
All right, absolutely. Thanks for calling. Call again.
Thank you.
All right, so broke out into some NFL talk. Good call.
Yeah.
Well, remember, folks, and just to reiterate before we're up against it, we're going to try and get a little Michael G. Butash, attorney at law, action here in a minute or two. Yeah. But
we don't need a break again if we don't want to. If he just wants to call in.
Well, I figured we could, since we were on the topic of Storm, play Randy Hippert's interview.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
That you got. But real quick, folks, thank you very much, Wes, for the call. You can always call and bring up a topic here on the show. This isn't just, we have our outline and we go with it. If you always want to bring up a topic, go ahead and give us a call.
Yeah, we may catch us off guard a little bit, but we'll do our best to jump into it. I guess we're very lucky we had a Dolphin fan sitting next to me. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. Zach, you're supposed to warn me about these kinds of things.
I'm sorry. But ladies and gentlemen, real quick, we're going to hit up, it's a technically 2-minute break. This is Tampa Bay Storm quarterback Randy Hippert's interview from last.
Post-game
interview.
I actually got questions in.
Good. Yeah. This time you didn't let that woman who doesn't really know much take all your heat. Oh, was she bad this week too?
She was a little bit better, but she's listening.
She's hot, so
she is. But just listening to her, like when she's, I'm just so still wrapped in hockey season right now. I just want to smack her.
All right, folks.
Anyway, here's the post game interview with Randy Hippert after the win on Friday night.
Who we at? Where are we at?
Thank you.
You good? Okay.
Yeah,
just like we just said a second ago, how did it feel to get that offense going? Oh no, sorry, to get that offense going today.
Well, to come out off of a game where it's so bitter, you lose the ball in the last snap, and that's all you got to do is close it. To come out and start fast and to execute and to just put points up early, it was great. Like Coach said, it took 4 games in. It's the first time we scored on the first drive, so just to come out and start fast is a great thing right now for us.
And also just being able to hit all the receivers tonight, the chemistry that you guys are building from week to week. Can you just touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're all new to each other, so we're all learning as we go, and I think we're starting to come together. We're starting to get on each other's page. We're starting to read the defense together, and that's the big thing. Once you get receivers and quarterbacks reading the defense the same way, things can click, and right now we're doing well, and really it starts all up front. The line is doing a tremendous job right now, giving me time to throw the ball. I mean, you see it sometimes. I'm back there pumping and jumping right, jumping left, and I still have time to get rid of the ball. So right now, just hat my hat off to them. They're doing a great job up front.
After last week's episode, we all know what happened. Did you kind of use that maybe as motivation this week? Because, I mean, the offense really looked sharp this week, and then
honestly, no. It's one of those things where you don't want to think about that too much. To lose a snap like that, I mean, it was a freak thing. That's the first snap we lost between us since camp started. We didn't lose one all throughout camp. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. Happened at the right place at the wrong time, So it was one of those things we just put behind us and just came out tonight and wanted to execute, and we were able to.
With another big division game next week against Jacksonville, you get one of your better weapons back next week. Are you pretty excited? How excited are you about that?
I don't know if he's back or not.
Potentially.
They haven't said if he was or not, but if he is, great. We're going to try to get him into the offense, and I mean, he obviously can make a lot of plays, and right now we just got to keep executing. If our defense keeps playing like they are playing, we're going to have a lot of opportunities.
You did a lot of things right tonight. What can you use from tonight's game and build upon for next week?
Just the little things, just executing, getting the ball out from your own end zone and working the ball down the field. And then, there was a lot of big plays. We scored, I think, on fourth down. We got a third and long, I think, or it was first and 20 or something like that. So just the little things. There was big situations, and we came through them.
Thanks, Raymond. So there you have it.
We are right now getting the man of the hour, who is one of the best sponsors in the world. Hopefully he answers. That'd be kind of bad if he didn't answer. Oh, wait a minute. I have the song. I gotta play it. I have to play it. Hold on.
It's that time. It's time.
Are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Michael G.
We're playing your song, Mike.
Attorney at Law.
Can't just let you come on without your introduction.
Michael G. Butash, Attorney at Law. Welcome to the show, sir.
How you guys doing this morning, or this afternoon, I should say?
It is this afternoon, Esquire. How are you, sir?
At a basketball practice, walking out of the gym so I can hear you guys.
Good times, good times. Well, I had to have you on the show this week because I'm sure you've seen it by now. The new Florida State logo.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts? Yes. Your thoughts?
I find it to be disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know what else to say about it. I was shocked and appalled when I saw it. I don't know why. It goes down to the saying, "If it's not broke, don't fix it." Yep. And kind of looks like Elvis sneezing, in my opinion. So
yeah. Well, I actually had.
It's up on the screen right now.
Okay. Oh, yeah. There it is. There it is. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not going to say it's disgusting, but I guess really the only true aspect I like about it, I do like the feather, the feather redesign. And that's probably about it.
Well, apparently they got together with Nike, and I've read a couple things about it, and they said like they're having problems mass producing the other logo or something. The school put out something like that, which I don't buy that in the slightest, because we've had that logo forever, and what do you mean that can't be mass produced? I really where they were saying about that. But when I say disgusting, I'm upset about it. I just, like I said, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the old one.
No.
But apparently they got together with some members of the Seminole tribe that wanted to get it more lifelike, I guess you could say. But I don't know. I mean, I've seen several different prototypes just online, and this is not one that I saw until it came out. And I was like, wow.
I mean, at least they gave him some teeth. I will say that. At least he has teeth now. Doesn't look like an old gummy, a gum old man. But yeah, I saw that same thing where it's hard to mass produce, to stitch it on the uniforms and stitch it on clothing and so forth was just too costly and wasn't easy to do. And it wasn't easy to paint it on the middle of the field. I'm like, really? You've been doing it for how many years now, and all of a sudden now it's difficult? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
What are they going to do with all the new stonework and brickwork that they've done, where this stuff's this logo is engraved? I mean, are they going to pull bricks and cement now up so they can put the new logo in? I mean, I don't. I know it's you're a lot. I mean, I don't know when the last time you were up there, but it's everywhere now. And it's just so recognizable. It's just I'm like you. I'm with you. I'm kind of appalled by it. I'm not. It personally, just the fact that they felt the need to change it and to change it like this, and man, I don't know. Like anything else, maybe it'll grow on.
I was going to say, I'm sorry. What I really don't like about it is the left-hand side of the the circle, it's kind of like it's a circle on the right-hand side, or it's more proportionate. And on the left-hand side, you see some jagged lines up by the head or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that kind of, in my opinion, it throws it off. I do like the feather, how they have the FSU instead of it saying Florida State down the feather. They have the FSU up top there. But I don't know why they thought the need to improve it. I mean, it's like the Bucks uniforms. I didn't think if they would have just made the logo a little bigger or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know, but how do you make the head bigger? I mean, it's a head.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's fine.
Yeah, they took more off the back. They took more off the back of his head and put it more up at the top, and now it just looks like
right.
It
does. It looks like Elvis speeding.
Yep.
It does. So, and then I was reading something today about it, and they were like, Tommy Wright, who was one of the music history teachers there and wrote the FSU fight song and was very prominent in the music department at FSU, and that was his likeness for the original Chief Osceola head. And then somebody said, no, the artist came out and said that wasn't true. But I had Tommy Wright as a teacher when I was at FSU, as a professor for the music history class. I think every football player that went to FSU actually took that class.
Yeah.
And he said, Tommy Wright in class was asked that question, and he said, yes, that's my likeness. So I don't know why they're changing it, but
and why they're doing it now of all things too. I mean, if you're really looking to, I mean, first of all, you're coming off a national championship in football. Your gear sales are naturally going to go up, and now you've got to revamp all that stuff all over again. I mean, this is just a way to double gouge people to get new, to buy new gear and materials. I think that's a really crappy thing to do. I just think it's bad timing. I'm with you. I don't think there was really a need to do it at all. Maybe a little bit, but man, I don't know. This is just not.
Well, they it's kind of like the new Coke. I wrote an analogy, and which was pretty good, and everyone was like, oh, and now they're going to come back to Coca-Cola Classic, so maybe they'll go with Chief Osceola Classic.
But I don't know. Is this something? Is this something you can go back? Can you go back to it though? I mean, can you say, okay, this is miserable failure, people don't like? Can we go back? I don't know that you can do that.
Well, everybody that I've talked to, I haven't talked to really one person that said they liked it. I mean, I followed Jameis Winston on Twitter, and he said he liked it. And maybe one or two other people have said it, but I think maybe they're just saying that just because they're at the school and it's Jameis Winston and he can't say anything bad about it.
Well, I talked to a couple of Florida State guys at the Storm game on Friday night. Chris Davis and Mario Henry, and Chris just looked at me. He's like, I won't say exactly what he said, but he basically was, "Are you? Is this a joke? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And because he hadn't seen or heard about it, and he was the look on his face, and like I said, I won't say exactly what he said, but he was none too happy about it either. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to talk to Derek about it, Derek Brooks. So I'll be interested to get his opinion when I have an opportunity. He was just very busy Friday night with Bobby Bowden being there and all, but
Noah, how do you feel about it?
Or do you care?
Well, college football isn't my forte, but I feel like changing of logos are pretty much pointless, especially in situations with FSU. I mean, yes, they changed how the face looks and they just made small changes, but why make the changes?
It's such a profound logo. It's one of the most well-known, profound logos in all of college football and all of sports.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that that logo, like you said, is everywhere around that school. So that's not only changing the sports teams, it's kind of changing their whole campus and how they live their life around that campus day to day.
Well, there was no need to do it.
No.
I mean, if you look at the old Florida Gator, okay, and now the Gator head, I mean, that's a drastic change, and I would say it was a change for the better, and I hate the Gators.
Yes, okay? At least that was an improvement.
It
Go
was
Huskies.
A change for and they changed their helmets, though. They still, everything stayed the same, but that logo, so that was a change for the better. This is definitely not a change for the better. This is why.
Yeah.
Why?
No, I agree with you. I mean, University of Connecticut went through the very similar process just last year themselves when they, this is their third logo change in the last 20 years for them, and their most recent logo change was completely drastic from anything else they had ever had. It's grown on me, and I imagine that this new Florida State logo will eventually grow on me as well. But the thing with the UConn one, their new logo is actually extremely cool, except that it looks like a wolf and not a husky, and that's my biggest problem with it.
Everyone thinks I'm repping a Minnesota Timberwolves shirt.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. But with the Florida State logo, I think this is kind of the new trend right now in sports, and it's one thing to have done it in the pros and so forth, but now it's transcending into the colleges, where colleges can remain a little bit more traditional, I think, than your professional sports teams, and I think this is just going to be a domino effect, and it's going to start running rampant across all college football. I think that they're just really trying to bring a lot of more modern looks to a lot of their teams, their uniforms, and so forth and so on. I just don't feel that this is one that needed it, but that's my opinion.
Well, that's your opinion, and it's an opinion of countless others, because I was unaware that the Huskies changed their logo. I saw, doing a little research this morning, I saw the LSU Tigers kind of changed their logo a little bit, and there's issues as to why that was. And the question I have is, who went to who? Did FSU go to Nike, or did Nike go to FSU, or who was the one that came up with the idea to change the logo? Because if it was Nike going to FSU, then that's it's money driven, and if it's FSU going to Nike, then I'm questioning why that person is in charge of where they were. They need to step down and put me on the board.
I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
Actually, Mike, thanks for bringing that up real quick. I just saw, you are right. They actually changed the LSU logo. They debuted it at the spring game, and it's awful. It looks terrible, and I'm going to put a picture of it in a second on the screen, but I'm sorry to cut you off. It looks awful.
No, it's fine. The one thing that I am happy about when I was reading about it is apparently FSU is going to come out with a garnet, a true garnet, so you're not going to get the Under Armour garnet and the Nike garnet, and there's all kinds of different shades of shirts out there, but apparently the color, from what I read, is going to be more uniform, and so I'm excited about that, because people ask me all the time, garnet, what color is that, and is it maroon, is it, the cardinal, I'm like, no, it's kind of in between, but hopefully this will help out.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out on the 11th. So that's when they're officially supposed to be releasing it. This got leaked out and it spread quick. But yeah, I'm looking at the LSU change too. I think it's just more simple, more rigid logos than to make them more simplistic and more cartoonish and less detailed, I suppose. So you have another caller, Zach?
I missed it.
Okay, that figures.
I'll kill you.
If you were just trying to call in, go ahead and dial in again. Zach will be more on the ball to catch that call, I believe. But all right, well, Mike, I appreciate your calling in to give your opinion. Got anything else for us today?
Well, no, it's a beautiful day out here in Odessa, Florida, though.
All right. Well, I'm hopefully be enjoying it myself here in about 15 minutes or so.
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right. We'll
I'll
take
talk to you
care.
guys later.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, so that was one of our sponsors, attorney Michael Butash, and it's the poster or banner behind me for Butash and Donovan, and we do have that other call.
That's my fault for missing your call, sir, ma'am, whoever you are. Welcome to the 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment Show. State your name, state your purpose.
My name's Derek, and I'm a graphic designer. I've got thoughts about logo change.
All right.
Oh, great.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
All righty.
Go ahead.
Oh, am I on the air?
Yeah, you're on.
I think, being a graphic designer, I think anytime you change a logo, whether it's for a business, a corporation, or something that's high profile, like a sports entity or a fast food chain, I think it's a no-win situation. I think it's rare. I've hardly ever seen anybody have a logo changed and have the the public consensus being, hooray, what a great idea that was.
Mm-hmm. There's some.
What happens is we just have, we kind of get fixed on what's there, whether it's a great logo or a bad logo, and it just, we get used to it, and then it changes, and there's always going to be people that think, what's the point of doing that? And it's rare that you hear the people say, hey, big thumbs up on changing that logo. I do know this, that especially when you get organizations that are as big as, these schools or sports teams, that they definitely don't make these decisions just, because the president came in one day and said, how about a new logo so you can get an intern to come up with a couple ideas for us to look at over lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's a lot of market research and a lot of meetings and discussions before they pull the trigger and go through with this stuff.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I'm sure a lot of thought got put into this. I mean, same thing they said about the Buccaneers and so forth. I don't know. Sometimes just change for the sake of change, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I guess I would really truly like to know the real factors behind it, because I'm just not buying their reasoning behind this, and I don't blame the graphic designers or any those that came up with the concept. I mean, because that's exactly that. I mean, sure, out of this is probably one out of several hundred different concepts and designs. I mean, I got, like Buccaneers, for instance, I've got to go and see a lot of the concept designs that they had when they were looking to change their uniforms. Mm-hmm. Some were really, really awful bad ideas, and some actually weren't too bad. But you have to settle on something if that's what you ultimately have made a decision to do. So it's not really the artist's fault. They're asked to, hey, redesign this, see what you can come up with. But the people that ultimately make the decisions are either the ones to blame or the ones to applaud. I think you're right, though. A lot, it's some things that you just get so embedded in your tradition and what you're so used to that a drastic change sometimes it's hard to come to grips with. And I've done it with the new Yukon logo. It's actually grown on me. I like it quite a bit. I still don't like the fact it doesn't look like a husky anymore.
Right.
But I rather believe that this FSU logo will probably eventually do kind of the same thing for me. But as anything else, it's there's nothing we as fans or alumni can do about it. So we have to deal with it. So.
Right.
Definitely appreciate the input there, especially from someone that knows the business a little bit. Anything else for us today?
No, you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very
call
much.
Again.
God, that was simply the best time for that call to come in.
Well, I mean, that's good that had somebody that has some actual input. He had actually some very good points. But yeah, I certainly don't blame the artists that came up with the concept or anything like that. And I think this was a combination of the school and it was probably Nike bugging in there. Hey, you ever think about maybe just changing your logo up a little bit? And I think it was more. I bet you it was more of Nike saying, hey, we don't mind producing your stuff, but this logo is a little bit expensive for us to actually have to stitch and put together. You guys ever think about coming up with something a little bit easier? I guarantee you that's about how it came about. And then she was like, you know what? Maybe we need to get a little bit more modern. Oh, and then money comes filtering in from Nike. So I have a feeling that's kind of where how it went down. I'm simplifying it, obviously, but that's what I figure is what's happened. But one last thing, since we're on college football, kind of, sorta, I did come across on ESPN this morning that Ryan Williams, University of Miami quarterback, who's patiently been hiding in the wings to start for that program. He's been with them for 4 years. He's finally was going to be the starting quarterback. Headed into the season, tore his ACL just the other day in their spring game. And he is out he's going to be having surgery next week, or actually, I believe this coming week. I say next week, it already is that. So this week, I believe he's scheduled to have surgery, and there's no timetable for his return. So
honestly, I feel I can. It sucks.
That does suck.
And I can relate to him too. Every time I would get ready to start, I'd either get a concussion or I'd break something or I'd tear something. It's like, what? WTF? Question mark.
Well, maybe it's all that stupid backyard wrestling crap that you used to do. Didn't
Listen,
help any.
I got a lot of views on those videos.
Yeah,
so I
and
don't
you got
take
hurt
back
for it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Look, taking
Dumbass.
chairs to the head doesn't hurt as bad
Right.
as everyone think it does.
Right. And that's why you got concussions.
Indeed.
You can't play anymore, right?
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, exactly. That's point match.
Point one for scuba.
That's right.
Yep.
We are obviously running up against it, but I did also want to touch about.
Oh, we can go over.
No, we'll do what we got to do.
That's right.
We'll run over if we have to. I wanted to touch on a subject this week. My wife actually had asked me to talk about it. Mets second baseman Daniel Murphy. Baseball season just got started. The season was just about to start, and his wife was about to have their first child. So Daniel took a leave of absence, maternity leave, if you will, to be there for the birth of his child, which caused him to miss the first 2 games of the season and evidently the third game of the season. So he missed the first 3 games of the Mets baseball season that is part of 162 games. And for some reason, this was a big uproar for up in New York for Mets fans, from Mets broadcaster. I was really surprised to hear it come from Mike Francesca, who's a well-known sports broadcaster, usually very well respected, and I lost a lot of respect for him after this, as well as Boomer Esiason, former New York Jet, Cincinnati Bengal and New York Jet quarterback, Boomer Esiason, who's now working for a sports radio station up there in New York, and I was really just taken aback by why this was such a controversy. I mean, so what? He missed 2-3 baseball games in April, the first out of 162 games. I mean, seriously, isn't the running adage that games in April don't count? It's the ones in June and July and August that are the ones that count.
Definitely.
I mean, 162 games, and you're worried about him missing 2 or 3 games. So maybe he doesn't, where later in the season where he normally might get a night off, maybe he doesn't get that night off instead, and he makes up those games, so to speak. I mean, seriously, is this really going to hurt the Mets season because your starting second baseman, as talented as he may be, missed a couple games?
Well, he's come back and he's played terrible. Have you watched how he's been playing lately?
Well, I don't watch a lot of Mets games. I'm concentrated on watching the Yankees and some of the Rays, but so I haven't paid that much attention. But that, okay, so he's playing terribly now. So maybe it was good that he missed 2 or 3 games.
I feel like he shouldn't be looked down on because he has different morals than everyone else. I mean, it's his first child.
Right.
He's obviously going to want to be there, and his son's name is Noah, so that's obviously already a plus.
Yeah, well, but here's what Mike Francesca said: "You're a Major League Baseball player. You can hire a nurse. What are you going to do? Sit there and look at your wife in the hospital bed for 2 days?"
Yes.
Seriously? That's exactly what you do.
Yeah, you sit there and you talk to your wife and you hold your newborn child.
You do. You absolutely.
Well, let me tell you real quick. I was watching ESPN2 the other day around 6 in the morning because, school systems in Hillsborough County suck because the high schoolers are the ones that have to get up so damn early. And I was watching Mike and Mike Golick actually said that when his wife gave birth, he was he was getting ready to go into a game. It was Friday, and he decided, hey, play. He
all right. Well,
he didn't miss a game. He missed 1 day of practice and then came right back.
Okay, but here's my situation, and I'll break into what Boomer Esiason said, and I'll hit on your point in just a second. But let me go further into what Boomer Esiason said because he's a football player, so I could transition and talk about your football and relate what I'm going to say here. Boomer Esiason further said, now understand that Daniel Murphy's wife did have the baby via C-section. Now, sometimes that's going to happen. In the case, that's what my wife and we knew, so we were able to plan that out. But you don't always know that. Sometimes a birth can be have some complications, and C-section is an only option. So it's not always something is going to happen. But Boomer Esiason basically said that his wife should have had a C-section before the season started. In other words, she should have scheduled the C-section before the season started so he wouldn't miss his games.
Now that's stupid.
That's an unhealthy child.
Well, not necessarily. We had ours a month early. They can come early, but I'm kind of appalled by that coming from Boomer Esiason, who has a special needs kid himself, would have the audacity to say something like this. Now how it relates to football players, understand this. Football players get paid for games. If they don't play in a game, they don't get paid. So football players, and they only play 16 games a season. So they only have 16 opportunities. So if they don't play in a game, they don't get paid. And so their salary, whatever it happens to be, is broken out over 16 games. Baseball, you're paid for the entire year, whether you play or not. So it's a big difference. So as a football player, I can see why he would say, well, hell, I'll go be the birth of my baby, but I'm still playing in the game. Because if he doesn't, he's losing out on that week's salary, which, when you break that, that's a huge chunk of change when it's 1/16 of your yearly salary. Daniel Murphy gets paid for 162 games. His salary broken down under his 162 games, even if they didn't want to pay him for it, is minuscule in comparison to what you would break down over the course of 16 games. So I think there's a big difference there, and why football players like Mike Golick or Boomer Esiason or any other football player would come out and say something like that. I mean, am I wrong? I don't think so. I don't think you can compare the two.
Well, I mean, do I think that he should have missed the because what everyone's saying is that it was okay for him to miss that Monday game and they were off Tuesday and then come back Wednesday and play. Everyone was really pissed off that he didn't play Wednesday, but just like you said, these games in April really don't matter too much.
And maybe he should have been back for the Wednesday game.
Well, that's
only missed
my
the
personal
Sunday and
opinion on it. But.
Yeah, if he missed the Sunday and Monday games, all right, he probably shouldn't have missed the Wednesday game. I would say, unless there were any complications with the birth or anything like that, and that's something we.
But
don't
there
know.
wasn't.
Well, we don't know that because he's remained low key about it. He hasn't really come out and said anything, and I applaud him for that because I think he's been unfair. They've been unfair to criticize this guy. I think most people would have done the same thing. Again, you can't compare. A football player's opinion to a baseball player's because football players don't get paid if they don't play. Baseball players get paid regardless. They have guaranteed contracts. Their money is guaranteed, and they break their salary over 162 games as opposed to 16 games. So you got 10 times as many games, and it's not at all the same thing. And certainly the sport itself is not the same mental attitude. So. I just think to me there's much ado about nothing. I was really surprised that it was such a big deal. When I first saw the report, I was like, okay, so what? And then all of a sudden I started seeing about all these people coming out and saying stuff, and it was a big hubbub about it. But that's typical Met fan for you. So that's about all I can say about that.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, that's what they are. So, but at any rate, so. That's all I really had for today. And perfect. It ran us right up to the top of the end of the hour, the end of the show. And we don't have any other calls coming in. So I guess with that, Noah, appreciate you stopping in today.
Yeah, of course.
We'll have to have you on when football starts picking up again. And pick your brain.
Definitely.
Bounce some stuff off.
Yeah,
there.
definitely.
So glad to have you come in here. Zach, go ahead before I wrap up. Give out our social stuff and how people can get in touch with us and go from there.
Of course. I am honored. Folks, if you'd like to contact the show next week, 813-639-8255. Also, check us out on Facebook, 2 Cents Sports and Entertainment Show. Also, check me out on Twitter at 2CentZach. Noah, do you have a Twitter that everyone can follow you at?
No.
You're not on Twitter either.
Good man.
This is ridiculous.
No, it's not.
This is ridiculous. Check him out. Check Noah out on
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Oh, no. Check Noah out on Instagram at ncelb. I just put it back up there. There it is. So you guys can hurry up and copy that down. Check out all Noah's pictures. Follow the show on the website, www.talkwadstudios.com. Or you can go on our actual site, www.2centshow.webs.com. Thank you to our sponsor, Michael G. Butash, whose poster's in the back of their head. Anyway, so is that it for me? No, thank you for my friend Taylor's YouTube channel. Go check it out. That's all I have for today. Good night.
And yes, I absolutely do thank you for listening to 2 Cents Sports and Entertainment Show. Yes, please, if you haven't given a like to our Facebook page, the more likes we have, the more exposure we can get. Share with your friends if you enjoy the show. Post links on the show. Spread us out there. We just missed out on getting an award for Best Sports Show. We're hoping we'll nail it again next year, and we're looking to do whatever we can do to improve the show. That's what we're looking to do. We'll try to have some guests in like Noah here and Jim earlier, so I want to thank Jim Sweeney as well for coming in and sharing with his character, and we'll look to try to share that a little bit more down the road, and interested in make sure he's successful in that. So without anything further, I'm Scuba. There's the coach behind the glass. We are out for the day. Next Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Tune in. 2 Sets Sports News and Entertainment, or Sports and Entertainment. We're going to stop leaving the news out. I got so used to saying that now. So Sports and Entertainment. We'll see you next week.
Storm, correct.
So how was it, just the atmosphere and everything?
It was great. It was great. The fans were great. It was loud. It was a good environment to play in, for sure.
And did you feel comfortable out there? I mean, it looked like you did. You were perfect.
I did. I think that's just the experience that I've had so far. But yeah, it was good.
And you also got a tackle. Do you get to do that often, or was that something?
I try to sometimes, but usually it doesn't work out. But that was my first solo tackle I've ever had.
And how was you had your first week at practice, and how's everything going with the guys?
Great organization, great teammates, great coaches. I mean, I couldn't ask anywhere else.
You didn't think about making extra points in a crucial situation, so things like that?
I went out there, the guys blocked, good snaps, good holds, it made my job easy. So, hopefully that continues and, be successful throughout the rest of the season.
How about the Storm fans? Over 10,000 fans tonight were all cheering you. See the first impression of the Storm fans.
Oh, they're great. They're loud. I wasn't expecting, that big of a fan base, but it's good. It definitely helps us out, them cheering us on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Michael G. Butash, attorney at law, is a former state prosecutor with substantial experience in handling all criminal and DUI matters. When you are facing charges, you want someone who aggressively defends cases ranging from minor traffic infractions to serious violent first-degree felonies. Call attorney Butash and together you'll discuss your case in person or by phone. He accepts most major credit cards and also offers payment plans. Call attorney Michael G. Butash today for your initial free consultation.
This program was brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization, setting the standard for new media broadcasting.